I invite you, it's the first trick of the morning. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, opening in the gray hymnal to our very first hymn. Hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. Hymn number 1.
Nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth, all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Good morning and happy Halloween. I am going to take this down just for this part. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor on this not particularly dark and twisty morning. We are a liberal religious community that has been working to make the world a more just, peaceful, and loving place since 1865. My name is Stella Gorlin. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve this congregation as the Director of Spiritual Growth and Development. Whether you're here in person, joining us on the live stream, or watching on demand later, thank you for the gift of your presence. And whether you've come back again and again, or this is your first time with us, we are so glad you're here. If you are new, you are invited to a newcomer welcome right after the service in the Redmond Room, which is just out these doors, second door on your left before you get to the wall of name tags. And you can also fill out a newcomer survey on our website, which is available at uuaa.org/newcomer survey, so we can get to know you and help you make more connections. Next Sunday, as part of our service of remembrance, we will build a memory altar. You are invited to bring a photo or memento of a loved one who has died to add to the altar during the ritual. Elementary-aged kids will depart for Foz Chapel with me after the time for all ages to participate in our own version of that same ritual, so they're also invited to bring an additional memento. And a quick reminder that next Sunday is also the end of daylight savings time, when we fall back an hour, which is kind of nice. Hopefully the extra light in the morning will help remind you of that time change. On Friday night, we held our annual Halloween Friday Fun Night celebration, and it was quite a party. Our youth and their advisors created a very impressive haunted house in Foz Chapel, especially considering that they only had about 2 hours to put the thing together. Now, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat about haunted houses and horror movies, anything where some creepy character could jump out at any moment. But I had to swallow my nerves because one of my kids asked me to go through it with them. Well, the next time through, I had 2 kids holding on to my hands, and then 3. And then by my 5th time through, I had a little crew of about 5 or 6 kids huddled around me as we walked or tried to make our way through this little maze. Each time we made our way through it, more kids joined our little caravan, and I felt lighter and lighter. Grateful that I am a safe person for them. Grateful to all of the grown-ups that came in costume or manned a trick-or-treating station or allowed themselves to be mummy-wrapped. Grateful to our community for embracing imagination, fun, and connection. In the spirit of a spooky season, a reading from Reverend Christian Schmidt. Welcome to all manner of creatures. No matter who or what you are welcome here. Let's be clear. Here, we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters and police officers, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all varieties. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes and superstars. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all other manner of creatures. Here we welcome you, and all of you, who and what you are. Welcome. Let us begin.
Isn't it amazing that when I'm wearing this mask, you have no idea of who I am? But when I remove it, you will instantly know who I am. Yes, that's right, I am Fred Astaire, despite what it says on the slide. And I'm honored to have been asked to lead the chalice lighting this morning. Now, if you are watching online right now, please light your own chalice or a candle and let us know in the chat where you are and where your chalice is lit. Now, I learned that this is something this congregation and just about every other UU congregation as well does to mark the start of the time you spend together. So I would like to invite the mysterious person at the piano to come up and help light the chalice. Now, when we light the chalice, we're reminded that even a single flame can offer us hope when the times are darkest. Now that mysterious person is here, yes, this mysterious person, oh my God, who is actually Allison Halerz, will light the chalice. And as Allison lights the chalice, we will say these words together. All are welcome to join in. We light this chalice for the light of truth. We light this chalice for the warmth of love. We light this chalice for the energy of action. We light this chalice for the harmony of peace. Thank you, Allison. Or rather, mysterious person at the piano. Thank you. Now, since this is my first time at a Unitarian Universalist congregation, I also learned that the idea of covenant is foundational to this faith. It's encouraging to know that one can be part of this community without having to adhere to only one belief, that there's no creed you have to recite, but rather you have a covenant, which are the promises you make to each other about how you want to be in relationship. I find that a very inclusive and radically welcoming concept, so I'm very glad I dropped in today. So let us say the words of the covenant together, whether it's your first time, like me, or if you know this by heart. Please join me as we say, the spirit of this church is love, and service is its law. This is our covenant with each other, to dwell together in peace, to search for truth in love, and to help one another.
As retired United Methodist pastor Steve Garnas Holmes writes so beautifully, Halloween, a day when we get it right. Strangers come to us, beautiful, ugly, scary, or odd, and we accept them all without question, compliment them, treat them kindly, and give them good things. Why don't we live like that? Our story for all ages this morning teaches us that real belonging might be just a Halloween costume away. A Tiger Called Thomas, written by Charlotte Zolotow and illustrated by Diana Kane Bluthenthal. Once there was a little boy named Thomas. He was very nice. But when he and his family moved to a new house on a new street, he took it into his head that the new people might not like him. So he never left his stoop. "Why don't you play with that little girl Marie?" his mother asked him. "Maybe she wouldn't like me," Thomas said. "Of course she'd like you," his mother said. "Why wouldn't she?" But Thomas didn't answer. "Why don't you visit the lady with the black cat down the street?" his mother asked. "They might not like me," Thomas said. "Of course they'd like you. Why shouldn't they like you?" said his mother. But Thomas didn't go. "Oh, Thomas," said his mother, "everyone will like you. Why don't you go play?" But Thomas shook his head and just sat on the steps, watching. The lady in the house across the street was always out in her yard, watering the plants, raking the leaves, sweeping the walk, picking her flowers. And all the while, Thomas sat on his stoop and watched. He watched the old man who came up the street with his big black poodle 3 times a day. The poodle always looked over its shoulder at Thomas, and its tail stood up like a small palm tree and wagged from side to side. But Thomas just sat on his steps and watched them pass. He watched the sparrows and the grackles and the blue jays in the trees. He watched the black cat look up at the sparrows and grackles and blue jays. But he never went off the stoop to play. At Halloween, his mother came home with a tiger costume for him. "Try this on," she said. Thomas put on the orange and black striped suit with its quilted tail. He put on the mask with its long whiskers. "How do I look?" he asked his mother. "Exactly like a tiger," she said. Thomas looked in the mirror, and his mother was right. No one will know who I am when I go trick-or-treating," he said. There was a large orange moon in the sky, and it was already getting dark when Thomas went out. The branches of the trees hardly showed, except where they laced across the moon. He crossed the street to the house of the lady who was always outside. The chrysanthemums were still blooming in front of her house. "Trick or treat," Thomas called when she came to the door. "Well, hello," the lady said. She dropped a package of orange candies into his bag. "Happy Halloween." "Thank you," answered the tiger. "You're welcome, Thomas," the lady said, closing the door. Under his mask, Thomas flushed. "That's funny," he said to himself. "She called the tiger Thomas." At the next house, he rang the bell. "Trick or treat," he called. Marie's mother opened the door. She had candy apples for the treat. "Oh, thank you," the tiger said, for he especially liked candy apples. "You're welcome," said Marie's mother. "Marie is a witch tonight. Maybe you'll pass her. But anyway, come play hopscotch here tomorrow, Thomas." "Thank you," Thomas said again, but when the door closed, he reached up to feel his mask. It was still on, covering his whole face. That's funny, he thought. She knew who I was, too. He passed a tall ghost going up to the house as he left. He couldn't see the ghost's face, but there was something very familiar about this figure. "Hi, Thomas," said the ghost. "Want to play horseshoes tomorrow? I got a new set." "Sure," said Thomas, for the ghost was a boy named Gerald. Thomas could tell by the height. He went to the old man's house. The black poodle threw back his head and barked wildly when he saw the tiger at the door. But when he sniffed at the tiger's feet and sniffed at the tiger's quilted tail, he suddenly put up his own palm tree tail and wagged it hard. "Trick or treat," the tiger said. The old man had made big pumpkin cookies. "Fresh baked, Thomas," he said, winking as he dropped one in the bag. "Best thing for tigers," he added, and winked again as he watched the tiger go down the steps. He called the tiger Thomas too, thought Thomas. Now he rang the bell at the house of the old lady and the black cat. "Trick or treat," he called. Come in," the little old woman said. Her black cat looked curiously at the tiger, and the tiger reached out to stroke the black cat's slippery fur. "He loves that," the little old lady laughed. "Come play with him again, Thomas," she said. "He gets lonely." "So do I," said Thomas. She knew too, he thought to himself as he turned toward home. The orange moon was a little higher in the sky. The sky was a little blacker than before. He couldn't see any of the branches against it now. A group of ghosts and goblins coming down the steps of the lady across the street, and a solitary but familiar-looking witch with her broom under her arm passed him. He looked at her curiously as he walked slowly toward the steps of his house. It was Marie. "Hi, Thomas," called Marie. Thomas walked upstairs to his own room. He looked in the mirror at the tiger. The tiger in the mirror looked back at him, whiskers and all. "Have a good time?" asked his mother. "How did they know who I am?" Thomas asked. "Did they?" said his mother. "Yes," Thomas said. "The mask didn't fool them a bit. And they all asked me to come back." "I guess they all like you," his mother said. Thomas looked at her. Suddenly, he felt wonderful. "Oh, I like them too," he said. And when he took off the mask, he was smiling. The end.
Hello, my name is Kristen LeSueur, and I have the pleasure to serve this community in the Chalice Singers Choir and as one of the co-chairs of the Leadership Development Team. The story of why I support this congregation is one of community. In June of 2019, when I was 5 months pregnant with Liara, I was out to dinner with a friend from this community when I got the kind of call we all dread. My beloved aunt had lost a lifelong battle with depression and had done the unthinkable. She was not a member of this community. She had no defined faith, no one to give a eulogy or to comfort her family. But luckily, I did. I had you. This community rallied around me. Reverend Theresa stepped up to help plan and give the memorial service at the funeral home. More than a dozen members of the choir volunteered to sing at her memorial alongside me. I received this lovely comfort shawl. It feels like a warm hug every time I wear it. I've received beautiful flowers from Reverend Manish with a handwritten card. and countless flowers, hugs, cards, shoulders to cry on over the next couple months. The love that you extended not only to me, but to my whole family was such a comfort. We still speak of it with appreciation at family gatherings. This is a community that shows up for each other in small ways and in large ways every day. I'm practical enough to know that every way in which we show up for each other costs money, from the yarn for the shawls, to the scores for the choir, to the lovely flowers and cards. I give because it's a tangible way to support our UUAA community and the wider community. I give because I want to show up for someone else the way you all showed up for me. I give because I believe in the work that we're doing and the world we're creating. I'm so honored to be in community with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Our stewardship campaign is coming to a close at the end of this month. That means if you haven't made your pledge yet, please make every effort to do so by this coming Friday. There's still a chance to win a gift basket in the raffle. And if you are unsure of how to make a pledge work for you, please talk to me or Reverend Manish or our administrator, Deb Markham. Remember, our operating budget is based on our pledge money. It's a very simple equation. If we don't raise enough to cover existing costs and the expected increases, such as for insurance for employees, then our existing level of staffing and programs will have to be cut, and new initiatives will likely have to be on hold. So let me say that again. If we don't raise enough to cover costs, staffing and programs will have to be cut. You heard Kristen's very personal story today about how this community showed up for her at a time of need. You heard the same theme in the past 2 weeks in testimonials from Kyla Boys and from the Hildebrandt family. And these are just a few of the examples of how UUAA has made a difference in the community and how it has literally saved lives of countless members of this congregation. So please make your pledge today. Out of 365 households that we hope to hear from, we have only received forms back from about 170. That's not quite half. So if you are among those who have already pledged, please accept our heartfelt gratitude. But if you are one of the procrastinators, you've had 26 days, there's only 1 week left. So it's time to pledge now. Thank you.
We show up for one another in so many ways. Perhaps you were on the receiving end of a meal train, or perhaps you made a meal for someone else. Maybe you have volunteered with our children and youth, or perhaps your children built bonds with other trusted adults in our SGD spaces. Maybe you found your calling as a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or Alpha House. Perhaps serving on the Visions of Justice Council or tending to the grounds and gardens feeds your spirit. From donuts on Sunday to OWL trainings, from serving pizza to sweeping the social hall at Friday Fun Night, we rely on one another to make this place come alive. We offer our time and energy. We teach and learn together. We work for justice and inclusion. And through it all, we commit to a life guided by love. There are many ways to give. You can drop cash or checks in the collection baskets as they pass through the rows. And for those that would prefer a digital option, you can text UUAA to 73256, or you can go to uuaa.org/giving. However you choose to give, thank you for your generosity and for your commitment to a brighter future that we are building together. Today's offering will now be given and gratefully received.
tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Will the ushers please come forward? And as they do, I invite you to rise in body or spirit, wherever you may be, and say with me the words of dedication. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Thank you.
Happy Halloween week. Did my disguise fool you? Is it convincing? You had no idea it was me. I want to invite you into a journey with me this morning. And it's a journey to Australia, which I had the opportunity to visit for the first time when I was on sabbatical 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And imagine we're there together, and we're in the city of Melbourne. Melbourne has the largest art gallery in Australia. It's called the National Gallery of Victoria. And I got to learn while I was there at the National Art Gallery that I'm not an artist. My husband is, but I'm not. So I got to learn the difference between contemporary art and modern art. Some of you already probably know that there's a difference between the two. I didn't. It's not my field. But I got to experience the joy of finding out that I really, really, really like contemporary art. I learned some of the differences. That contemporary art, it's like 1960 forward, and there's often embedded social critique or social examination of things we're figuring out from a modern day perspective as human beings, which, of course, being in the field of spirituality, I love. And I got introduced at the National Gallery of Victoria to an Australian artist by the name of Richard Luer. This is so cool. So Luer is an Australian contemporary artist, and in January of 2024, during a 10-day period, the museum would open itself up every night for 10 days for free to anybody who wanted to attend. They do this every couple of years. They could call it a triennial event. And during those 10 consecutive evenings, Luer made himself available in the museum so that anyone who wanted to come and talk to him could, and they were invited to share a confession, something that they had never told another human being. And as people offered these confessions to Luer, he selectively painted them on panels live while at the museum, and these panels were put together in geometric configurations and displayed at the museum. All of that happened in January of 24, and I happened to be in Melbourne in March of 24, just 2 months later. And so I got to see this exhibit. Now, to invite you more deeply in to kind of the emotional vibe of being there with me, because now you're there with me on the day that I visited, I chose to spend a lot of my sabbatical on my own. Like, I wasn't visiting friends or family in places. I was by myself, having new experiences. And in this case, I had been traveling almost a month by myself. And on the day I was in Melbourne and at the National Gallery, I was starting to feel a little bit of the loneliness. Now, this was by design, so it's not a surprise. And yet there were moments where I felt a little bit lonely. And when you feel a little bit lonely, you might feel a little bit sad. And such was the day that I chose to go to the National Gallery of Victoria, the day on which I encountered Richard Luer's Confessions. Now imagine you're walking into this exhibit area, and you see the first panel, which goes from the floor to the ceiling of a room as big as this, floor to the ceiling, and you see geometric squares, rectangles configured like this. Don't worry about straining your eyes trying to read this. We're gonna zoom in, as you would if you were in a gallery. You would notice particular things. And I noticed such squares or rectangles as, I have imposter syndrome. I think I'm unlovable. I talk to my cat more than my family. I'm only married for the money. I could be right-wing, but I'm not supposed to be. I feel unattractive because of my race. And that's just one wall, and you turn from that wall to another, floor to ceiling, a second panel. I love to gossip. I have a crush on my teacher. I'm a complete disappointment to my family. Sometimes when I'm at the park, I don't pick up my dog's poo. I've been reading my partner's diary. I turn away when I see a homeless person begging on the street. And yet another wall. I like it when my friends are jealous of me. When people talk to me, I don't really listen. I hold grudges. When I say I'm working from home, I'm not working at all. I put career over love. My son wants to be an artist, but he's terrible. A final wall. I have a crush on my best friend. I have texted while driving many times. I use comedy to hide my sadness. I'm happiest when I'm alone. Well, it was me who called the cops on our neighbor's loud music. My best friend's baby is so ugly. It's interesting how the vulnerability of such authentic sharing can fill a void, not just in the heart or spirit or soul of the person sharing, but also in the person receiving the act of vulnerability. There's a profound intimacy and mutuality when we take the risk to be authentically who we are. Whatever was going on with me on that particular day found deep comfort and resonance in these very vulnerable, deep sharings of others. And I knew then, traveling in time from Melbourne back now to Ann Arbor, that I was going to bring this to us. The moment I encountered this art exhibit, I was like, oh, we are so going to do this. And I want to invite you into the type of authentic, vulnerable, creative risk-taking that Richard Luer invited the attendees at the National Gallery of Victoria into. I want to invite you into that kind of heart space, to reflect on the nature of hidden parts of ourselves, these day in, day out masks that we wear. What is it that you haven't disclosed, shared, placed on a table so that others can see? I want to invite you into a similar communal exercise as the one Richard Luer modeled. And we're going to participate in it. It's rare that we invite you to take out a device in our Sunday services, but today is one of those occasions. And if you have a device, take it out. If it's powered off, you are invited to power it on for a short time. And if you don't have a device in which you can scan a QR code or enter a link, our ushers, now that is the primary invitation, is that if you do, please participate that way, because otherwise a human being has to do data entry with paper forms that are filled out, which is a lot. But if you need a paper form, our ushers have paper forms for the adults, and Stella has special ones for the kids, because kids have things they have never told anybody too. And as you prepare to participate in this, the invitation is simple. One thing, not multiple things, one thing that you have never told anyone before. Your responses will remain anonymous, unattributed. We're not asking you to share your name with this. And our intention is that the things that are submitted in the similar way to Richard Luer's art exhibit, where things were shared back with community, our hope is that sometime after today's service, to help foster a sense of the hidden aspects of our human experience, we will share back with our community some of what is shared today. So your participation is, in inviting your participation, we're inviting you into a time of personal reflection, authenticity, potentially a sense of revelation or confession. Now, note, as you saw Richard Luer's art exhibit, short, pithy, direct to the point is impactful. And I want to invite you to potentially frame your response that way, short and potentially impactful. And we're going to take a few minutes now to participate in this shared opportunity for reflection. How was that? Thrilling? Perhaps a bit scary? Well, the best Halloweens always are a bit thrilling and a bit scary, right? At least I could bring you some of both, elements of both. Now, if you filled out the paper version on the way out, there will be baskets on the table. Please leave your paper submissions in the basket, and they will get added to the electronic submissions. And stay tuned in the weeks and or months ahead. We will find a way to report out, and I'm holding the little possibility of maybe even something artistic, our own homegrown thing might emerge. We'll see. When I saw that Richard Luer's art exhibit is called Confessions, an old longing was reignited in me. Having grown up Hindu, I was always kind of jealous that my Catholic friends got to participate in this tradition called confession. Did you know, by the way, that the original form of confession was always public? None of it was like private and squirreled away. You were supposed to, like, in front of the entire community, share what your confession was and make atones and amends that way. It only shifted to private in the 3rd or 4th century. Well, as a kid, as a teen, I thought that this notion of confessions was great. You have your own private time with a religious leader. You can tell them anything, and both spiritually and legally, they have to take whatever you tell them to their deathbed. I would have used this all the time. Every little insecurity, doubt, personal fear, anxiety, all of it would have been offloaded onto the priest. And I would have gotten in trouble because none of those things are sins per se. But it wouldn't have mattered. I could have then confessed my sin of deliberately misusing the confessional. And we'll save sin for another Sunday. That's another big topic. But for now, I can say what really drew me to the Catholic concept of confession was the intimacy and deep trust of being able to tell someone things that really matter that you didn't know how to talk about with anybody else. Disclosure with confidentiality, personal revelation with a certain amount of acceptance, care, and support. And while the Catholic version of this occurred in a container that was for mistakes or transgressions, I longed for this type of container for everything. Sure, mistakes, but also insecurities, fears, private joys, all of it. And there are some successful models of this in our society. The most prominent one that I can think of is our 12-step support groups, in which the main goal is to provide one's full care and attention in listening deeply and being present to others. It's a form of sacred witness, really, unconditional, deep listening and presence. What is shared stays confidential, and you're not supposed to try and fix, solve, or debate the experience of others. It's a beautiful and proven, highly effective model for how simply lending our presence to another, our full presence, can spark another individual's growth and personal transformation. And by the way, our Unitarian Universalist model of small group ministries, which includes our congregation's chalice circles, our version of small group ministries, are built on these same principles of deep listening and presence. So there are pockets of our society where we humans are able to take the risk of letting others see our full selves. But why only pockets? Can't we live this way all the time? And I think somebody famous kind of reminded us about all of this like more than a decade ago. Wasn't it Brene Brown in Daring Greatly, now over a decade old, invited us to think about vulnerability. And we Unitarian Universalists, we love Brene Brown. And in part because, if you're familiar with her work, she's deeply scientific, and she offers no observations about the human condition or human living until it has been thoroughly researched over years and then peer-reviewed and subsequently published. So her work is so thoroughly investigated that by the time she makes a pronouncement about what it means to be human, you would need to be beyond a PhD degree. You would need funding to do your own research to be able to kind of debate her. But what she offered in this very thorough, rigorously scientific kind of way was a simple observation which is totally in tune with what we would imagine intuitively. Without vulnerability, we human beings do not flourish. We cannot flourish. And it makes sense, right? We know when others don't really know who we are. We know it. We know it on the inside. And one of the heartbreakingly loneliest experiences any of us human beings can have is to be surrounded by people, maybe even hundreds or thousands of people, and to feel like no one truly knows who you are. That kind of loneliness is soul-crushing. It's a loneliness that I've known intimately various times in my life. You probably have as well. But because of that, because of my ability, perhaps yours, to have known that, we also know the deep joy that is possible when you're around others, hey, maybe even community, that gets you. It's magical. It's something that each of us inherently deserves. It's not something we have to earn in some way. Rather, it's a gift that each of us deserves receiving, and a gift each of us can lovingly and generously bestow. In Daring Greatly, Brene Brown says that vulnerability requires uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. She writes, let's think, for example, about love. Waking up every day and loving someone who may or may not love us back, whose safety we can't ensure, who may stay in our lives or may leave without a moment's notice, who may be loyal to the day they die or betray us tomorrow. That's vulnerability. Love is uncertain. It's incredibly risky, and loving someone leaves us emotionally exposed. So yes, it's scary, and yes, we're open to being hurt. But can you imagine your life without loving or being loved? All authenticity requires risk, not just as a friend, a significant other, a lover, but as an artist, as a writer, as a singer, as an author, as a leader, as a parent. All of the ways in which we can potentially show up that are real and that matter, all of those can run the risk of authenticity. And that risk involves possibly receiving feedback or criticism or rejection. The moment we stop hiding behind or wearing masks, the moment we make ourselves vulnerable and truly seen, we may receive feedback of some kind, maybe even critique or criticism. There's a tension inherently here. On one hand, that longing to find the joy and the beauty of opening up to others and being truly seen and understood. And there's no way to do that and find that and experience that without running into the risk of hearing things we might not like in response. Brene Brown notes, if we stop caring about what people think, we lose our capacity for connection. When we become defined by what people think, we lose our willingness to be vulnerable. It's a tightrope, and the safety net are the people in our lives who can help us reality check these two extremes. Staying connected requires caring about what people think, and simultaneously being authentic and vulnerable requires not being defined by what others think. There's an invitation to balance here. And as Brene Brown notes, in community with others, we can find the support that helps us find that balance. In closing, I want to share with you just a few lines from Theodore Roosevelt. And Theodore Roosevelt was the inspiration of the title of Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly. And these are a few lines that she includes in her book from a speech he gave at the Sorbonne in 1910. Theodore Roosevelt wrote, or said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the person who points out how the strong individual stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the person who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly and errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. They who actually strive to do things in the world, who know great enthusiasm, great devotion, who spend themselves in a worthy cause, at best in the end, experience the triumph of high achievement, and at worst, if they fail, at least fail while daring greatly. May we each dare greatly enough, audaciously enough, to be our own authentic selves."
Friends, would you rise as you're comfortably willing and able, turning in our teal hymnal to number 1007, as we sing together, "There's a River Flowin' in My Soul," in the teal hymnal number 1007.
It's time.
Friends, in this week that includes Halloween, enjoy the fun and frivolity of masks and costumes, while remembering and holding in your heart the knowing that offering others this gift of letting them be seen for who they are is such an immense and important thing that we can do with our presence, with our hearts, with our being. Offer that gift freely, knowing that that's how we model receiving it back. We offer the thing to the world that we know we also need ourselves. Go in love and peace, knowing that you are held up and encouraged in all of that until we are together again. Amen.